Things are getting too spicy for the pepper.
Wait! What was that? Just now.
Things are getting too spicy for the pepper?
That's it.
That's it?
Things are getting too spicy for the pepper. Your catchphrase.
Of course!
Now you just have to test it out.
Things are getting...
And someone other than me, bitch.
Welcome back, everybody. It's a new year, a new season, and a whole new set of topics coming to you live. That's right, from the Squatchers Lounge podcast. This season, we're talking about tracking Bigfoot in America. What do the track cats mean? Where do they start? Where do they go? And just what's real and what's not. We're going to find that all out this season. That's right, everybody. I am the host of this mess, the Squatchers Lounge podcast. That's me. I am Reverend Jeff, coming from the secret location compound somewhere outside of Sacramento, California. That's right. There's my pterodactyl. He's hiding over there in the corner underneath the cover tonight. We're going to try and keep him from screaming at us. Hello, everybody. We do have a brand new quasi theory from our quasi host. That's right, Mr. Dean Cooper, as well as the first camping tips for stupid for the brand new 2019 season. So it is bound to be a fantastic night tonight. Hey, I do want to bring up something for a pal of mine. Let's go ahead and bring that up. We'll take a look at it right quick. If you are going to be at the Squatch Fest, that's right, in Cowlitz County Convention Center, January 26, 2019, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., you too can have your picture taken with the elusive Sasquatch, Mr. Cliff Sorry, I'm a stuttering fool. Cliff Barrickman and James Bobo Fay. And you can be right there in the middle. That's right. You can get your selfie with the Sasquatch at the Squatch Fest, January 26, 2019. At Realistic Bigfoot Costume on Facebook. That's right. You can rent yourself a genuine looking Sasquatch for your event as well. So check it out. I think it's going to be a hoot myself. I wish I were going, but I'm not. Anyhow, back to it. That's right. We're going to be talking about track casts this year. What do they mean? Where did they come from? And this week, we're actually talking about one of the very first discoveries in America that led us to think that there's something strange in the woods out there. That's right. The Jerry Crew pictures are casts from 1958. Actually, I have some pictures of those. Let's go ahead and bring that up real quick so we can get an eyeball on what's going on out there. There it is. I mean, it's literally almost the size of his torso. And that's not like a fisherman's trick. I mean, dude's just like holding it at his waist. I mean, it is a big, big track. It was found in August of 1958, and these are articles that come around from October. The new Sasquatch found. That's right. It's called Bigfoot. Well, there we have it. There's another picture of the cast again. He's not holding it out in front of him to make it look bigger. I mean, that cast is literally the size of the man's torso. There's a lot that goes along with this cast. Here's a picture from Cliff Barrickman's site. It's this poor cast has been around a bit now. It's been broken a few times. I'm not even sure if there's a realistic or an accurate mold of this particular one, because it is shallow and it was delicate and it did get broken. But if you look at that thing, 17 inches long, nearly 1.5 feet, and it's just about half as wide as it is long. And that's one of the things that we look for in authentic Bigfoot tracks, is nearly the width is half as long as the length. And that mid-tarsal joint, everyone wants to call it a break, but it's actually a joint where the foot has an extra joint there that the human foot doesn't have, which allows it to be much more flexible over a larger surface that way, is definitely evident in this track in particular. Here, of course, they're doing the whole, let's take a picture for the newspaper there, Jerry. Hold up that ruler while I act like I'm dusting this cast off, and we'll go ahead and get a picture for the paper. It was the 1950s, and of course it was, sensationalized at that point. But a lot has to do not only with what was found, but really by whom it was found as well. And, through it all, Jerry Crew kind of stands up to a moral highness that a lot of other tracks may not have. Now, in, let's see here, 1959, True Magazine took an article written by the famous researcher Ivan T. Sanderson. It was called "The America's Abominable Snowman: The Jerry Crew Story." It starts out basically with somewhere in the wilds of California, there's a gigantic creature which walks on its hind legs, leaves huge human tracks, and is scaring the hell out of everybody. What is it? Nobody knows quite yet. Now, California is a huge state, an immensely varied one. It's nearly 800 miles long, and it contains everything from barren deserts to lush tropical jungles. It's full of oddities and enigmas, ranging from almost active volcanoes to places where commercially mined proprietors assure travelers that something has gone wrong with the good old reliable gravity itself. That's right. The vortex houses and such. Now, and he is absolutely true here in California when it comes to the vast diversity of ecosystems that we have all along, even the eastern Sierra, the Sierra Mountains themselves. They basically start at the bottom of the desert and run all the way through the ecosystems, clear up into the redwood rainforest. Yes, I did say rainforest. If you get up into Fortuna and Eureka and places like that, it literally is rainforest-like conditions, even as far north as those locations are near the California border. Now, the story goes on to tell us that California is always a good for a story, and the rest of the nation is always willing to indulge a big laugh at its expense. But there is one story that nobody's laughing at anymore, and it may turn into the biggest thing to come out of that fabulous state since they found something yellow at John Sutter's mill. And they're talking about gold in that particular case. Gold, not black gold, not Texas tea, but the real yellow stuff comes out of the creeks here. On August 27, 1958, a tractor driver named Gerald Crew drove out to his job, which at that time was working with a crew pushing new lumber access roads in the uninhabited and only loosely surveyed territory near the borders of Humboldt and Del Norte counties in northwest California. Jerry Crew was a native of Sailor Township in Humboldt County. He was an active member of the Baptist Church, a teetotaler, and as he had talked to enough people up there to state flatly that his reputation for honesty, level-headedness, and just plain common sense is an excellent one. Now that in itself, that paragraph in itself is setting you up to understand that he's a member of the township. He's a member of the church. The people of the church know him and like him. He's not known to be a drunk. He's not known to be any type of a storyteller. And if you wanted an honest answer about something, you'd ask this man, Jerry Crew. So here you've seen that, they've done the research, that Ivan did the research within the community to say that he's talked to enough people that the reputation upheld nearly everywhere he went. Now, the story goes on to tell us that the area where the road was being built is, surprisingly enough, is almost trackless wilderness. It's a borderline on the Pacific Ocean in the west of Oregon on the north. Highway 299 runs along its southern border, and it stretches some 130 miles inland to Highway 99. It's crossed by one widening blacktop road and some lesser roads, plus an assortment of logging trails and jeep roads, which were used very rarely. Now, while California is thought to be a heavily populated state, this particular section, encompassing some 100,000 square miles, is also known inhabitants at all, and almost anything could be living there, and nobody would be the wiser. And that's even still true today. One of my very first trips in California when I moved out here was to that particular area and out to 99 as well as out in 99. I went out with the great wilderness man Kip Morrill for a week-long trip up there. And outside of the city populations, I mean, it's so sparsely populated, it's not even funny. When I did finally get into the Bluff Creek area where they're talking about where they were pushing the logging trails in and out of this place, there's still nothing there. There's trails that go in and out of them, and most of them have been overgrown to where you're barely getting down them with a quad. And even down into some of the lower basins by the creek itself, you can't even get down with a quad anymore because of the rock slides. So it goes on again to say that if it sounds far-fetched, remember that it was only relatively few years ago that a Stone Age Indian named Ishi, the last survivor of a race of men long believed extinct, walked out of the forest and surrendered himself to a startled slaughterhouse butcher in Oroville, California. Now, Oroville is about 65 miles north of the state capital of Sacramento and actually has to be right here, not 20 miles from where I'm sitting. And it's a good deal closer to civilization than the remote spot where Jerry Crew found the first evidence of this Bigfoot. So here was an Indian that was living outside of Oroville in the mountains, and nobody knew that there was even a tribe of Indians still living there. I believe it was 1954 or 53 when Ishi actually walked out of there, and they claimed that those Indians were now dead. Crew's crawler tractor had been left overnight on a head of new road about 20 miles north of the point where it branches into the narrow blacktop that runs through the Hoopa Indian Reservation from Willow Creek to a place with a delightful name of Happy Camp up near the Oregon border. Jerry was an older member of the Q employed by Mr. Ray Wallace, a subcontractor to the firm. That name will be important later on as we go on our tracking Bigfoot across America. Block and Company, which had contracted to the Public Works Department on behalf of the National Park Service to build the road. Jerry's a local man. Most of the fellow workers were also local men and included, among others, a level-headed young nephew, James Crew, and two experienced loggers of the Hoopa Indian origin. The country is extremely mountainous, as a matter of fact. In most places, it's almost vertical, so you can only go up on all fours or down on your bottom. It's clothed in such a closed canopy of enormous spruce and other conifers, beneath which is spreading subcanopy of broadleaf bushes and small trees, while the ground below is covered with geography that makes it nearly impossible to see, at best, more than about 4 square miles. And that's exactly true. Even up on some of the highest ridges that surround this particular area, you can't see very far without hitting tree canopy in your way. Now, the road on which Crew was working crawls laboriously up the face of the western wall of the valley that encloses the stream known as Bluff Creek. All along that mountainous trail, there are stumps of vast trees cut and hauled out, and the great dozer crawlers just pull hot summer sunlight as they gnaw their relentless way up into this timeless land. Now, what Crew discovered when he went to start up his cat that morning was a series of footprints that formed a continuous track that surrounded and then went away from the machine. Now, such tracks would not have aroused his curiosity under normal circumstances because there were 36 men and the roadhead, nearly scraped roadbed, was covered with soft areas of mud alternating with patches of loose shale. But what did startle him, however, was that these footprints were of a naked foot of distinctly human shape and proportion, but actual measurement a whopping 16 inches long. His first reaction was to consider them a hoax. Crew had heard of similar tracks found by another road gang working 8 miles north of the place called Corbel on the Mad River earlier in the year. Jim Crew had also mentioned having come across something similar in this area. But being a practical, matter-of-fact person, he felt considerably annoyed that some outsider should try to pull such a silly stunt on him. He also suspected that an outsider because, while his fellow workers liked a harmless joke as much as any other man, he knew that this job had made them far too tired to go clomping around in the dark, making silly footprints in the dirt. And then he got to thinking about this outsider and wondered just how he could have gotten there without being spotted past the camps further down the road, and how he had gotten out again or where he had gotten to. So Jerry followed the tracks, and that's where he got his second shock. So let's stop right there and take a moment to consider what's going on at this point. Poor Jerry, he's gone out to the camp for the day. He's relaxed and come back in the morning to find that his tractor has been inspected by Bigfoot number 12. He walks up to the tractor, he takes a look around, he walks around the tractor, and then he walks off again. What would you do? Me, I'm following the tracks. I want to see if I can locate whatever it is that left those tracks behind myself. But I'm not too sure that everybody does that. Do people quit? Apparently, that was a thing in that day. People did quit simply because of spooky stuff like this. And speaking of spooky stuff like this, it's time to take a quick short break and listen to our quasi theory of the week with Mr. Dean Cooper. And now, quasi theories from a quasi scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
The gods are blowing bubbles. A few days ago, while waiting for the incipient new year, I took a break from waiting and perused my daily conglomeration of Google News alerts. I have Google watching for news on a variety of things for me. Bigfoot and Sasquatch, of course, alien invasions naturally, weird news, understandably, and science in general for light reading. An article on phys.org caught my attention. It is titled, "Our Universe, an Expanding Bubble in an Extra Dimension." I thought, astrophysicists and cosmologists blowing theoretical bubbles, just the thing to fill my idle time with. The article is a gloss of a paper published by 5 researchers in theoretical astrophysics and cosmology at the Institute for Physics and Astronomy at Uppsala University in Sweden. The article is also illustrated with an image created by one of the authors. That image shows a bunch of galaxies floating on the surface of a bubble. The article says that bubble is expanding, and that expansion is proposed to be in an extra dimension, beyond the usual 3 we have known and dimension into general relativity theory, quantum mechanics, string theory. I thought, tie everything together with a string? But then I thought, the universe is a bubble? Where have I heard that before? In Hindu metaphysics, of course, I immediately shot back, ducking at the speed of my thought. This visible, touchable, smellable universe we live in is called the Pinda in Hinduism. It exists in, is manifested in a higher order dimension, which is called the Anda in Hinduism. Anda means egg. Eggs are bubbles. There's a higher order dimension in which the Anda exists, the Brahmanda, the egg of Brahma, the creator god of the Hindu trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Those 3 gods are the product of an even higher order reality, which is called the Parabrahmanda, beyond the egg of Brahma. Bubble eggs are no longer involved. The Parabrahmanda is not describable in words, probably not even mathematics, and there are dimensions higher than that. It gets better. There are more than one egg of Brahma. There are an infinite number of them being created, existing, then disappearing, eternally frothy bubbles in the substance of reality. As said in an article about the possibility of multiple universes on earthsky.org, in this picture, our universe is one bubble in a frothy sea of bubble universes. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. That's BHAIDIN.com.
There you go. The gods are blowing bubbles. Bubbles is back in town and he wants your number. Speaking of back in town and wanting your number, there we go. We've got a brand new camping tips for season to kick off the 2019 season as well. So let's give a listen to the Gone Camping channel and camping tips for stupids.
Camping tips for stupids. Tip number 74. The year is 2019. Marty McFly has already gone back to the future, and there's a strange orange fat kid who thinks he's president and wants to build a fence to keep the other Spanish kids from getting into the yard. And something about a bird box is the new Christmas movie of the season. We're all fucked. So let's drag in the new year kicking and screaming with some tips on how to camp like a pro, or in the very least, someone who isn't going to piss me off. Tip 1. If you drove up to your remote campsite in a Tesla, I get bad news. There's no charging station out there, so bring spare batteries for your dumb electric car. Tip 2. Remember, it's not chocolate, it's shit. Tip 3. If I see a satellite dish sticking up from your tent and the red glow from a Netflix logo on the tent fabric, I'm burning the damn force down. I just don't care. Tip 4. Learn how to do a proper campfire. Don't just pile junk up and set it on fire with a bunch of gasoline. Aliens are watching, goddammit. Tip 5. If you leave your garbage laying around at night, magical little pandas will come out and grant you wishes and give you hugs and tacos and rabies. This has been Camping Tips for Stupids. Remember to spay and neuter your idiot population.
Well, there you have it, people. Make sure your tent stays fully erect. That's right. I got to tell you, man, I'm looking forward to it. I still don't have the firm dates for the camping trip yet. We've put in the request for June 12th through the June 12th through that weekend. The 12th, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th. Heading back out of Pai on the 16th. We're going to do a long expedition trip this time. It's going to be 4 nights, 5 days out in the forest. So there's lots of time for people to make it in and out. I will have firm dates for you very hopefully next week, but I just don't quite have them yet. But what I do have is time to give some shout outs to the lounge. I'm so happy all you guys are out there joining us for us live tonight. Let's see here. We're going to give the first shout out to the year to somebody that we missed last year too many times. Christopher, Mr. Christopher, put some ketchup on them vegetables and get them down, man, because vegetables are good for you. There's Mr. Hunter. Hunter's hanging out there. Hello there, sir. Lance Windsor, of course, is in the house. That man is always here early. Richard Barfield. Hey, glad you are with us as well. The Life and Times of JCM. He's checking in as well. The Mage's Corner. Hello there. Hi, how are you? John Briers. Been a while, but you are back. Glad to see you. There's Mr. Starting off right with 2019. How you doing there, champ? Of course, our quasi-scientist, Mr. Ding, 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 Cooper. Shane Barber, the Cryptid Monster. How you doing there, pal? Glad you're out there. See, Spike Jepp is in the house as well. There's Mr. Don, Rife. Hey, pal. Seriously, man, as soon as I can get those dates for you, I promise they will be there. There, Mr. Doug Hudson. How you doing there? Glad you are with us, sir. That's the man behind Clone FX, realistic Bigfoot costume. That's right. They will be up there at the Squatch thingy that we talked about earlier. Mr. Rod Dupree, he's always in the place to be. That's right. He's hanging out with us. Keith Harden. Hello there, sir. Glad you are with us as well. Sweating in Paulides. Yeah, Paulides. Apologize. I never know how to pronounce that guy's name. Yeah, how you doing there, champ? Squatchy Inc. is in the house. There's the man. That's right, your old pal Wes. Don't forget to check out the Squatchy Inc. Redbubble page. He's got all your Bigfoot shirt needs going on out there. Oh God, Josu Salazar? No. Hosu? No, I don't know, man. I'm sorry with the first name. It's bad. I should be able to pronounce that, but I can't. Hi, Mr. Salazar. Glad you're out there. Artillery Bugs. That's right. Hello back at you. Kristen Roden. Hello there. Christy Roden. I'm sorry. I called you by Kristen, and that's a bad thing to do when your name is Christy. Hi. Glad you're with us as well. Mr. Fang, 3333333. He's back with us again. There's the Forest Cop. Happy New Year to you too, sir. Obsidian Radios checking in for us as well. Dun 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 dun. Todd standing in the back. That's right. He's going to be Todd standing with his face in the dirt. If I, don't give that man a penny. Not a pen. Not a finger. Must be from Italy. It says fragile on the side of it. That's one of my horny little birds in the back singing into his girlfriend. They're in meeting season right now. Michael Coke, how you doing there, champ? Glad you were with us as well. I know there's more than this in here, and I'm slowly getting there. There's one. Root Man. Hey, glad you're catching us live tonight. That's awesome. I know there's, see here. Don't want to miss anybody. I know that there are more people in here than what Karen, Rob, there she is. Hey, glad you're with us tonight as well. I'm sure the Squatch Box is out there hanging somewhere. Where the hell is Oreo Cream Rock? She's been disappeared for the holidays. I hope everything's okay. Mr. Doug Hudson, he's popped up again. I said hello earlier, but I'm saying hi again. Jonathan Doty. Hey, man, there you are. You're here. I'm there. Or I'm here. You're there. Everything's groovy. Sly Fox is in the house. John McCain. That's right. Too much acid is never a bad thing. I don't know. Somebody once told me that you can't overdose on acid either. I never tried. I thought it was always a bad idea. Oh, and there we go. David Sweating the Poldies was timed out. That happens. And the Gone Camping is back. There you go. I just used the cat. That's because it's crazy. All right. Well, it happens like that when you get out of line. Those guys with the blow tools will put you in your place. Hello there to you too. All right. That's it, people. We are back at it. If I didn't say hi to you, it's because I didn't know you were here. Say hi to me, and I might get back to you to the end of the show. We do have a wrap up with a Bigfoot campfire story again tonight, so it will be fantastic. All right. So back to the story here. Jerry comes into work. He finds that these 16-inch long footprints are around his tractor. He's kind of freaked out a little bit, and he decides, well, let's go trace them backwards. And that's exactly what he did. Tracing them backwards, he found that the tracks came almost straight down an incline, about a 75-degree angle onto the road ahead of the parked tractor. It then proceeded down the road to one side, circled the machine, and finally went down towards the camp. Before getting there, however, they cut across the road and went straight down an even steeper incline and continued to go into the forest with a measured stride that varied only when an obstacle had to be stepped over or a bank was so steep that it had to be obtained with the heels only. The stride was enormous and proved on measurement to range from 46 to 60 inches. That's 4 foot to 6 foot in stretch lengths between strides. Most average people, have like a 3 foot stride. You measure out 3 foot with a step usually. So this is quite a bit longer than that. And it averaged almost twice of that of his own steps. Crew's fellow workers refused at first even to go and look at the preposterous nonsense that he had said he'd found. But eventually, some of the men who had to go by that way agreed to take a look, and some of them said that they just look, and this is their word that they used, really queer, because in those days, queer meant strange, not flamboyant. Anyhow, but there were others who reacted differently. Now, all of them, it developed, had either seen something similar in that general area or had heard similar tales from friends and acquaintances whom they regarded as reliable. Only the Indians present said nothing. Then they all went back to work. Nothing further happened for almost a month. Then once again, these same monstrous footprints appeared overnight around the equipment and also further down the road toward the valley and around a spring. Still, however, the matter remained a purely local affair for another 3 weeks. The details known only to the men working on the road and their immediate families. Then in the middle of September, a Mrs. Jessie Bemis, wife of one of the most prominent and outspoken skeptics among the road crew, wrote a letter to the leading local newspaper, the Humboldt Times of Eureka, which said, in part, "A rumor started amongst the men about the existence of a wild man. We regarded it as a joke. It was only yesterday that my husband became convinced that the existence of such a person or thing is a fact. Have you heard of this wild man?" The editor of the paper, Andrew Genzoli. Yeah, that's fragile. No, it says fragile. Anyhow, says that the first regarded the letter with a thoroughly jaundiced eye. Why would you use jaundiced? You got a yellow eye from? That's weird. Anyhow, but the longer he saw it lying about his desk, the more intrigued he became, and finally he decided to publish it. So there, that's what we have to look at. It's not only what is in the track, but who is in the track is going to become far more important as we go down these lines. Now we'll talk later in weeks as we go on about the hoaxing that did go on in this particular area. They did talk about Ray Wallace, and Ray Wallace, his son, came forward later and had claimed that Jerry's footprints tracks may have been actually created by his father. But in this particular case, we actually read the account earlier where Ray Wallace wasn't even on site for the first incident to happen. He had actually been off and out of town. So there's kind of some contrary feelings that might be going along with some of these things. But in all, Jerry Crew's track itself, the casting of it, the pictures of the casting and the study of it really don't line up to the Wallace hoaxes. And we'll begin to examine some of the Wallace hoaxes later on as well. And with that, my friends, that is going to wrap us up for this edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. Don't forget about the Patreon feed. The Patreon feed is over at patreon.com/cryptid corner. That's right. A $1 a month pledge gets you all of the latest content that is up there. And now that January is here, we are on a hard release, and the releases are going to be coming at you. There will be an audio only copy of the Squatchers Lounge podcast up there each and every week. And I will also be creating the customized RSS feeds so that the people that are patrons will be able to plug that RSS feed into your favorite podcast application and be able to just listen to all of the stories and all of the podcasts through your favorite podcast apps. That will be happening here this week as well. There is a current Bigfoot campfire story up there that is free to the public until January 10th. Bigfoot trapped in a California barn on Christmas. On January 10th, that'll revert back to patrons only. But if you haven't heard that one, there's a chance to go out there and check it out. Patreon.com/cryptid corner. And with that, folks, I want to thank all of you guys for being here, and may the Squatch be with you. Check out this Bigfoot campfire story. don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. Welcome to the return of Bigfoot Campfire Stories. This story comes to us from high in the Sierra Nevada mountains when a lawyer on some downtime got a bit more than he was expecting while camping off-grid in the forest. Let's hear his story. I had decided to get away from the Bay Area, so I called a few friends to go camping for the long holiday weekend. Tom, Fred, and I agreed to meet up at Diablo Campground near Gold Lake, California, and we set up camp for the weekend. We all met up at camp afternoon on Friday and managed to get everything set up before dark. When we had set up the campfire and started telling stories like we did as we were kids. Well, I'd been watching Finding Bigfoot on TV, and I told the guys of a story not too far from here about campers that had a Bigfoot come right into their camp. No one, of course, believed it to be true, as there's no monsters in these woods, so we all drifted off to sleep the first night. We woke up to a torrential rain falling, and most of the camp had already cleared out. It was just us and a few RVs sticking it out through the weather. We sat in Tom's big cabin tent and waited out the storm that took up most of the day. We decided to take a ride up on the mountain for something to do. Well, the roads were pretty decent. We managed to get pretty high up on a ridge just as the sun fell over the hill. I stopped the car and we all got out. Now, people talk about being deep in the woods at night and how spooky it can get. Well, just then, when everybody started to freak out, I picked up a branch and I whacked it against a tree. Well, both Tom and Fred jumped and they started to laugh, but something knocked back. Well, that's when the fun ended for us all. Something knocked back, and it wasn't very far away. Well, I dropped the branch and headed back to the car. And by the time I started it, Tom and Fred were already belted in and yelling to get off the mountain. I still had to turn the car around up there, and it's harder than expected. We finally managed to get it pointed in the right direction, and that's when this large beast stepped out onto the road. My lights lit up the hairy face, and it raised a big melon-sized boulder over its head and hurled it at the car. The rock bounced off of the front fender, leaving a large dent, and the beast roared out so loud I panicked and hit the gas, nearly hitting the creature as we passed it. All of us screaming, it screaming back at us. I drove down the mountain as fast as I could. We got out to the main road and back to the campground. Well, we all managed to calm down, but none of us could sleep. There were monsters in these woods. Now what do? Well, we decided to wait until daylight and pack up and then head home, which is exactly what we did. On the way out, we stopped at the station and asked the waitress about anyone having a sighting. We talked for a bit, and then we all headed home. To this day, I haven't been back to the mountains. Well, this city slicker thought it was all fun and games to play research in the woods. Sometimes you get exactly what you deserve, and for them, it was one scary encounter. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you. Give a late shout out here to Maria Alegria. How you doing there? So glad you made it in to hear the story tonight as well. Thanks everybody for being here. We will see you guys next week. The tall ones, you are a late bloomer as well. So glad everybody made it. We'll check you out next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific. That's right here on the YouTube channel. Patreon.com/Cryptic Corner. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a great night.